Who are the 5 Championship managers who are under the most pressure right now? Let's talk about it. Alright guys, welcome back to another video on the channel. As we head into the month of December, plenty of Championship managers will be feeling the heat going into this festive period. Now we've already seen plenty of managerial changes up until this point in the Championship, with teams at the bottom and top of the table switching out their managers. Up until this point of the season, we've already seen plenty of Championship clubs making managerial changes, especially with those clubs down near the bottom of the table. In today's video, we're going to be talking about 5 of the managers who I believe to be are under the most pressure right now to turn the results around. If you do going to enjoy today's video, make sure to leave a like. 300 likes would be massively appreciated. Do check out the TikTok if you've not already. But without any further ado, let's jump in. The first manager worth talking about for me is Darren Moore at Huddersfield. Now, it's worth pointing out that Moore has had some excellent results in his last 2 matches, which I think have gone a long way in easing the pressure from the Huddersfield fans. Prior to that draw against Southampton and brilliant result in midweek against Sunderland, I think there was a growing frustration with Moore within that Huddersfield fan base. He was replacing a very popular figure at Huddersfield in Neil Warnock, and immediately the results weren't brilliant. To go along with that as well, the football was a little bit bland and negative, and Huddersfield didn't look that threatening. But those last couple of matches have been real battles under Darren Moore, and if that's the template going forward, then suddenly I think a lot more Huddersfield fans will start to get on board. The biggest thing for Darren Moore is avoiding relegation with this Huddersfield squad, and if there is a situation where Huddersfield do fall into the bottom 3, they go on a winless run, I don't think the board will have that much hesitation over replacing Moore and trying to get some results towards the end of the season if that was to happen. But like I said, I think that Moore has done a lot in these past couple of matches to ease the pressure on him. Prior to the win in midweek, Moore had only won 1 of his first 10 matches as Huddersfield boss, and that was obviously a pattern which couldn't continue. But suddenly there's a little bit more confidence in the overall project with that brilliant 2-1 win against Sunderland last night. Suddenly Moore could get a little bit more buy-in from that squad. As things stand, under Darren Moore, Huddersfield have been averaging 1 point per game, and if they average that between now and the end of the season, I think that'll probably be enough to keep them up. Time will tell though, and there's still surely going to be lots of twists and turns to come. The next manager under pressure and worth talking about, I think, is Alex Neil at Stoke. Now, the Stoke hierarchy, I think, are patient enough to ride out these rocky patches with Neil, but there becomes a point in the season where he needs to deliver. He was backed in the summer with a complete squad overhaul, and what Stoke fans have been served up so far has been pretty inconsistent. Stoke currently find themselves 17th in the Championship and quite a way behind where a lot of people perhaps expected them to be and build upon from previous finishes in the bottom half. Since the latest international break, Stoke just haven't been at it. Back-to-back losses, a 3-0 loss against Blackburn and then that 4-2 loss against QPR in midweek, albeit some key decisions did go against Stoke in that game. Taking a few comments from social media, and I think you do get a picture that a lot of that Stoke fan base isn't completely satisfied right now. This one from Jonathan Davis, who's a Stoke fan: all those attacking signings and he can't get anything out of them. No temporal plan in the final third, Neil out. This another one from Toby, a Stoke fan: it's been apparent since September that Neil isn't the guy to take us forward. Tactically a net manager who can't get a tune out of a good squad. Sack him tonight, it's way overdue. Now, I don't think that the Stoke hierarchy will rush into any decisions with Neil. I think they've shown by their previous track record that they will give managers ample amount of time to get things right. But something about Neil and Stoke just hasn't completely clicked yet, and that's been a bit of a far cry from Alex Neil and the usual manager he is. When I think about Alex Neil and his previous jobs, I've always considered him to be a bit of an impact manager. He tends to do his best work at clubs in his first season there. If we look at his time at Norwich, instant impact. He had his best season with Preston in his first year with us and got Sunderland promoted in his first season with them. With Stoke, they've not quite followed along on that same trajectory, and despite completely overhauling that squad, the results have still been pretty inconsistent. Stoke fans, I welcome your thoughts on that one down below. The next manager under pressure and worth discussing is Michael Duff at Swansea. It's now just 1 win in Swansea's last 7 matches. It feels like their upcoming game at the weekend against Huddersfield is a big one for Duff, as they really could do with a change of fortunes, and it seems like there are quite a few frustrations with that Swansea fan base right now in not really knowing where this squad is heading right now under Duff. This tweet from Swans Talk I found quite interesting. We started the season like a bunch of muppets. The tidy form in late September into October may well have saved Duff, but it just looks ominous again to me. What are we trying to do? Where are the improvements? Everything is bang average, bored of watching it. And yeah, he's spot on there about the slow start to the season. Swansea only won one of their first 8 matches. There seemed to be a few weeks where Duff had captured it and Swansea strung together a few wins on the bounce. But during this recent run of form, they have reverted to type, and watching Swansea a few times this season, it's not been the sort of football that's got me out of my seat on the occasions I have watched them over a long period. And that's despite having a few tidy players who I am normally excited to watch. Who knows, maybe it is going to be Yannick Bolasie who can be the answer to their prayers. Looking at their next fixtures, I do think there are some winnable games coming up for Swansea. I think that's where Duff really needs to prove his worth. Their next 3 games are against Huddersfield, Rotherham and Stoke. All 3 games I think that Swansea have to be taking advantage of. If they don't collect a decent amount of points from those 3 matches, then the pressure's only going to continue to grow from here. But Swansea fans, I'd be interested to get your take on Duff down below. The next manager we then have to touch on is Tony Mowbray at Sunderland. Just 2 wins in his last 8 matches, and I definitely think there is a growing pressure there from the fan base and behind the scenes with Mowbray. Now, this one is maybe a little bit more complex than some of the other managers that we've discussed recently, because Mowbray does have an excellent track record with Sunderland last season, getting them over the line and into the top 6. It is an incredibly young squad that he's working with, and it's worth remembering that there were patches of last season where Sunderland were very inconsistent. It's just they also balanced that out with some excellent winning runs on top of that as well. What Sunderland fans are currently being served up with, though, hasn't been great. Not a great result for them once again in midweek, and ultimately a game plan which followed along a similar template of the sort of traps that Sunderland have fallen into recently. Another game where they had over 70% possession, over 20 shots, 9 of them on target, but ultimately couldn't really make any of that quality count. Looking into some of the underlying stats this season, Sunderland have been the 3rd least clinical side in the Championship, and that lack of a natural prolific number 9 really has cost them at times this season. As things stand, Sunderland are 11th in the Championship, 4 points off the top 6, which isn't a million miles away by any stretch. For me personally, I feel like this festive period, the month of December, will be absolutely crucial for Mowbray, because if Sunderland get to January and they're not really looking like a playoff outfit or a team that's capable of challenging for the top 6, I don't think that board would hesitate all too much in making a managerial change. There were already some rumblings at the start of the season that they were maybe thinking about replacing Mowbray with perhaps a younger manager. Wouldn't be surprised if this inconsistent run continues that those rumours start to resurface once again. Now with Mowbray, I do think you get a lot of upside. I think he's a very stable Championship manager. Clearly a lot of the younger players like Mowbray as well, and working with him and what he's been able to get out of them so far. But I also buy into the argument that maybe under Mowbray there is a ceiling that Sunderland could hit, and perhaps they've already hit that mark, whereas another coach maybe could take them on to another level. So I'm really conflicted with this one at the moment, because I totally get arguments on both sides. I've seen Sunderland fans wanting to stick with Mowbray, others that maybe are calling for a change sooner rather than later. Sunderland fans, in the comments down below, I'd love to get your perspective on this one down below. As things stand, the position Sunderland sit in the Championship right now, I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. But if they don't manage to pick up their form soon, Mowbray could be in for a difficult conversation. And then the final manager to talk over, and definitely the manager under the most pressure right now, of course it's David Wagner at Norwich City. I, for one, am absolutely amazed that he's still in a job as of recording. Throughout October, Norwich went on that truly terrible run of form, and I thought that that would be the final nail in the coffin for him, but he managed to salvage things with results against Cardiff and QPR. But I think that sometimes you need to look deeper than the surface level of just results, and even in those games Norwich didn't look convincing. It was another game they ended up throwing away in midweek then against Watford, and I think this will ultimately be a continuous pattern. I've lost confidence, like a lot of the Norwich fans have, that he's the right guy to take them forward now. And to be honest, there was a little bit of a question over whether he was the right man for Norwich even coming into this season. Let's not forget that that Norwich ended the last campaign having won just one of their last 11 matches. I was willing to give him the benefit of the doubt coming into this season, and the first month or so, Norwich actually looked fairly good. They were scoring a lot of goals, albeit still conceding quite a few chances, but things have quickly unravelled from that point. We're now looking at the side who has the second worst defensive record in the Championship, having conceded 35 goals in their first 18 matches, not playing sustainable football that's going to get them results over a long period of time. And I know there has been a lot of change behind the scenes at Norwich recently, with Webber stepping away, and maybe that's been a reason why there's been so much up in the air with Wagner. But as things stand right now, I am baffled that he is still in the job, and I feel like even if he does pick up a few results over these next few weeks, if he is still given that time, it'll just be delaying the inevitable really for Norwich. Canaries fans, I welcome your thoughts on this one in the comments down below. If he was to leave, which sort of profile of manager would you be looking to appoint? Do you have any names in mind yourself? Because I don't think we're that long away from having that conversation with Norwich. But guys, there we have it. That will now wrap it up for today's video. Thank you very much for tuning in. Those are, for me, the 5 managers under the most amount of pressure right now. Now, things can change incredibly quickly in the Championship, and if any of those managers win their next 3 games on the bounce, then suddenly they get a get out of jail free card, and the momentum can quickly turn around in the league as unpredictable as the Championship. But as of recording right now, it does feel like there is quite a bit of a squeeze on those managers. Any other names that you throw into the hat, let me know about them in the comments down below. But apart from that, guys, thank you very much for tuning in, and I'll see you all in the next one.